55th year of the Republic of India. Signed, Draupadi Murmu, President of India.
माननीय राज्यपाल मनोनीत से अनुरोध है कि कृपया झारखंड के राज्यपाल के पद की शपथ
माननीय कार्यवाहक मुख्य न्यायाधीश झारखंड उच्च न्यायालय की उपस्थिति में ग्रहण करने की कृपा करें।
धन्यवाद। मैं संतोष कुमार गंगवार
ईश्वर की शपथ लेता हूँ कि मैं श्रद्धापूर्वक
झारखंड के राज्यपाल के पद का कार्यपालन करूंगा
तथा अपनी पूरी योग्यता से
संविधान और विधि का परीक्षण संरक्षण और प्रतिरक्षण करूंगा
और मैं झारखंड की जनता की सेवा और कल्याण में निरत रहूंगा। धन्यवाद। आप सबका आभार और आप सभी को मेरी ओर से जोहार। माननीय राज्यपाल, समारोह समाप्त करने की अनुमति देने की कृपा करें।
माननीय मुख्य न्यायाधीश महोदय से अनुरोध है कि वारंट ऑफ अपॉइंटमेंट राज्यपाल महोदय को। सभी अतिथियों से अनुरोध है कि राष्ट्रगान हेतु अपने अपने स्थान पर खड़े रहेंगे।
Sir, when I have to start, I don't know. Respected Vice Chairman,
आवाज में
this is my first speech. It may not be maiden. How much time do I have, sir? 5 minutes. Okay. Sir, I'm not a politician, and I do not know how to talk
इंग्लिश में
for against neither of them. I have been chosen nominated by President of India. I am really grateful to her, and of course our Prime Minister, who announced my name on 8th of March, which is the Women's Day, as a Nari Shakti. I have always worked for poor, and I am always on the field, so my experience is entirely different than both sides of the house. I have given only 5 minutes, and being a teacher, for me, 5 minutes is extremely small slot. However, I'll try to do only 2 things. I'm also an author, so I always like to give analogy, Sanskrit shloka, and describe. It may not be possible, maybe sometime later, if you give me a maiden speech of 15 minutes at least, I'll be able to do, sir, my expertise in my field. Yatra narya ramante tatra devataha. That's what our ancestors say. Where women are respected, that is a place where gods reside. And I want to tell you, the most important thing for women in general, is her health, because she always neglects her health and takes care of the family. And because of that, many women suffer in real life with cervical cancers, and they will come to the hospital only in the 4th stage or 3rd stage. I am being a daughter and a sister of a doctor. I am aware of this, and I have worked in my last 30 years with Infosys Foundation on this particular area, and that I want to give a suggestion. There is a vaccination which is given to girls between the age of 9 to 14, known as the cervical vaccination, which can, if the girls take that, it can be avoided. May I request that to the House, that we should incorporate that vaccination for the benefit of our girls, because prevention is better than cure. My father, being a doctor, always used to tell me, when a woman dies, when a mother dies, in the hospital it's a count +1. But for the family, a mother is lost forever. Maybe a man can get another wife, but children will never get another mother. Mother plays an important role, and cervical cancers are more in the later part of life. So I request that our government should look into this matter, and they have handled a very big vaccination drive during COVID. So this may not be very difficult if you can vaccinate our girls in the teenage 9 to 14. This is my first point.
Who has developed the vaccine?
This vaccination is developed in the West for a long time, sir. It is already given for the last 20 years. I tried one batch in my time, 10 years back, with government of Tamil Nadu, with K. Shanta, the director of the Adiyar Cancer Institute. It worked very well. So it is not expensive, I'm sure. Today it's 1,400 rupees for a person like us who are in the field. But if the government intervenes and negotiates, it can be, and it's any business is a win-win situation. He also should make certain money, but you can bring it to 700-800 rupees. And we have such a large population, sir. It will be benefiting for our girls in future.
Ashwini, please convey to the Health Minister, Nadda ji.
Yes, sir. The second point, which is very dear to my heart, is I'm going to talk. I may exceed 1 or 2 minutes, sir.
Please, madam, no problem.
That is regarding tourism in India. Sir, we always think only Ajanta, Ellora, Brihadishwara and Taj Mahal are few things which everybody should see. That's really not true, sir. Our country is vast, and There is a very famous saying in Subhashita that says, Bahuratnani Vasundhara. Mother Earth has many, many diamonds, and we always neglect and care only for one. Similarly, in India, we have 42 World Heritage Sites, but we have 57 pending. And we should bother about those 57. And some of them I want to tell because there is no time. These are the very important sites. I have gone personally and visited. Being a granddaughter of a school teacher and a history teacher, for the last 60 years, sir, I have done a lot of research in our own culture, our own temples, monuments in India. And whatever I have done, in a nutshell, I want to give. There is a marvelous statue of Bahubali at Shravanabelagola, which is a gem. It is in Karnataka. There are a group of monuments in Mandu, in Madhya Pradesh, who are very, very beautiful. There are caves or the prototyping of any temple you take in India. Its prototyping is done in Badami, Aivale, Pattatkallu in Karnataka, northern part of Karnataka, where I belong. I'm very proud about it. See Lingaraja temple, see any temple in India, Konark temple, everything prototyping is done in 575 AD in Karnataka. These three places which are not in World Heritage Center. You have, if you go to east, you have Tripura state, and they have fantastic sculptures known as Unakoti. Nobody knows who has done. They are 1,500 years old. Then you have Natural Roots Bridge in Mizoram and the eastern part of India, which is God's gift to us. We go to other countries and we see, but we never value because we have diamond in the hand. We search for the broken glass pieces. There is a complex of the temples in Srirangam, and people must have, some of them must have seen from South India. I'm sure northern and eastern part of India people might not have seen. They are marvelous. They are as good as Brihadeshwara temple of Tanjavur, which is a World Heritage Site. There are beautiful Mughal gardens in Kashmir. We always go and see the film shooting, but we will never realize they are not in the World Heritage Sites. So the advantages of putting them on the World Heritage Site, number one, the package should be done very well so that people can come and see them. The package should be conveniently should be done so that we should have good toilets and good roads so that the tourists can come. It will increase our revenue in our own country. There are so many advantages are there that I will do in my maiden speech. We have beautiful desert garden Ran of Kutch, and people only can see only in a certain months of the year, and we should take advantage of that. We have Buddha was a great person, and we are very proud when whichever country I go, they ask me, are you from the land of Buddha? I always say yes. He preached his first sermon in Sarnath, where very near to Varanasi, the group of old monuments at Sarnath, which are 2,500 years old, it is not in the World Heritage Site. The Lothal of Gujarat is equivalent to Mohenjo-daro Harappa of Pakistan. We can't go there, but we have Lothal and Dholavira. Dholavira is a World Heritage Site, but not Lothal. Lothal was a big port, and how the ships used to come, you should go and see. It should come in a World Heritage Site. We have Forts of Maharashtra, where Veer Shivaji, Bacha Bacha Bola Tha, that he said, Jai Mahadev in every fight. And they are the Jaladurga, Vanadurga, Normal Durga, the whole series where the forts face sea, and also gave a great history to India, and particular to Maharashtra, great Shivaji's place should come under World Heritage Site. There is a beautiful island on the river Brahmaputra in Assam, Majol they call, maybe my spelling may be wrong, it is Majoli. Sir, it is, if you would have seen in some other country, they would have made it the number one destination for wedding, or even for entertainment, or even to go and enjoy. But 90% of the people are not even aware of this. When you see the old parliament, you say, oh, these people, Westerners have come and they have built this one. People from architect from India, in UK, they came and built it. Sir, it is nothing but, if you see the prototyping of that, 1,000 years back, built in Madhya Pradesh, from Gwalior, 30 kilometers, it is called Mitavali. It's a Chausashta Yogini temple. It's exactly the replica of that, but in a prototyping, sir. There's a Padavali and Mitavali. There's one more set of temples which were saved because of on the Chambal River because of the dacoits, but they are world-class temples. The list is unending, but I want to conclude with a famous Gumbaz of Karnataka, that is Gol Gumbaz. It was ruled by the Adil Shahis in 1400 to 1685, and it's one of the marvelous things in India has produced, where you can have the echo of 7 times. My list is 57, but my time is limited. So, sir, this is an opportunity. Like young girl, I used to look at Rashtrapati Bhavan. I used to look at Rajpath Sabha. I used to always feel lucky are those people who stay there, who go there, who can talk, who can express. I never knew one day will come to me in my life, I can stand and talk about what I believe in. I want to conclude with a shloka which our ancestors have taught us, or my grandfather has taught when I was young. Whatever work you do better, do it with your mind, with buddhi, and with 100% concentration. We are in a country where there is so much diverse culture, but still we are all one, like 5 fingers make a mushti. We all have that character, which is very much Indian character, that we may differ in dress, food, language, but we are all one. I want to serve in my tenure Rajya Sabha with one single motto: Kayena vacha, Manasaindriyarva, Buddhyatmajava, Prakriti Sabhavat, Karomi Yadyat, Sakalam Namasri, Narayana Samarpayami. It is not my husband Narayan Murthy. It is Narayana the God, or the God whom you believe. It need not be Narayana, it could be anybody. So with a single-minded, with my mind, with my buddhimatta, with my concentration, with my whatever is the age I have, I am 74, going to be 74, but God willing, I will put my 100% in Rajya Sabha and work. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat Mata.
Thank you, madam. You made very valuable suggestions, both the suggestions.
कल चाहे जो भी हो, मेरी फैमिली का फ्यूचर हमेशा सुरक्षित रहेगा। अच्छा लगता है ना जब आप किसी पे इस तरह भरोसा कर सकते हो।
ICICI Prudential Life Insurance, जिम्मेदारी लगे प्यारी।
এক্সকিউজ মি ম্যাম, ছাড়ুন এটা।
ফিনাইল ডিটারজেন্ট পরিষ্কার করার জন্য
এই সমস্ত পদ্ধতি থেকে দিতে মুক্তি এসে গেছে লাইজল শক্তি। দেখবেন চমৎকার।
এখানে
লাইজল শক্তি ডিটারজেন্ট আর ফিনাইলের তুলনায় করে দ্বিগুণ পরিষ্কার, নাশ করে 99.9% জীবাণু। লাইজল শক্তি সবচেয়ে দমদার, পরিষ্কার, চমৎকার।
The narrative in the public eye is that you left working with the Modi government because your opinions weren't heard.
The point is not that this is silly government. The point is that within the government you have checks and balances.
In the Congress government, what was your biggest achievement?
We brought down inflation. Inflation was at near double digits. We started UPI, money transfers that you make all the time through Paytm, PhonePe. That was started in my time. Every government carries on the work of previous governments. All the credit belongs to the government past 2014 and none belongs before, I think is not right. Having an overly powerful Prime Minister, India cannot be governed from a very, very narrow center.
Do you think you were a disliked guy?
In every profession, you have to know when people are pulling wool over your eyes, when they're trying to convince you of something and you know it's not true.
This is an epic 2-part conversation with the former RBI Governor Dr. Raghuram Rajan. It's an explosive yet educative conversation. We had to split it up into 2 parts. Part 1 is primarily about the basics of economics, how he looks at the subject, and what he learned from his stint as the RBI governor, working with both the Manmohan Singh government as well as the Narendra Modi government. There's a lot of insight in part 1. Part 2 gets a little more political. Part 1's more on the educative side. But all in all, I feel both these parts encapsulated the ideas present inside this book that Dr. Raghu's written. It's called Breaking the Mold. You'll understand what this statement means by the end of the two parts. I sincerely hope you gain value from this conversation, because for me, it was an honor speaking to this man. You'll know why when you slip straight into it. Enjoy today's TRS conversation. Dr. Raghuram Rajan, thank you for being in our house, being in our studio. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me here.
This is a huge honor because ever since I was in college, I've been hearing your name in the best possible conversations. Whenever the conversation gets super intellectual, and if it's about economic policy, your name sprouts up. So it says a lot about your body of work.
Yeah, well, at least at this point, I'm trying to talk to a broader public. So reduce the intellectual, broaden the reach.
I was about to say that with conversations like this, I'm always a little confused whether I should make it intellectual and deep or kind of make it massy and, for the public, for kids as well.
It can be for both, right? I mean, sometimes the most complex arguments can be simplified because, ultimately, many sort of deep arguments have a very simple message. And if you can distill that, I mean, I've seen some great teachers. They can do it fantastically well, and that's an art.
Yeah, the one thing I figured is that if one truly understands the subject matter, then they're able to explain it to 4-year-olds really well using metaphors.
Absolutely. The metaphors require some thinking, but yeah, I mean, that's really the art because you have to understand it. As a colleague of mine who's a very famous academic says, look, I teach because to teach, I have to understand it thoroughly. And then I have to explain. There are lots of bad teachers who just read off from their notes. But to really understand it and to teach people, I think that's really, a deep exercise. And it requires a lot of intellectual thinking.
It requires a lot of time alone, going over the concepts you've learned, trying to figure out how you'll relay it to your students or the audiences.
Absolutely. And the best teachers spend a lot of time doing that. How does it, I mean, we talked a little bit about how your show works, but the best teachers do that, go over how they taught the lecture. Okay, what worked, what didn't work. And that's why when I teach cases, it's not the first time I teach it that works best. It's the 7th time, because then I understand aspects of the case that come from my audience, that is my students, but also I understand that okay, this didn't fly so well because I didn't explain it. I have to do it better.
I need you to explain some things to us today. Okay?
Absolutely.
I want to be fully straightforward with you and just tell you how I'm approaching this conversation. So we've had 2 people speak about economic policy on the show, KV Subramanian sir and Sanjeev Sanyal sir. And I've learned everything about economics through those conversations I've had with them. So I have certain notions. I encourage you to destroy those notions if you feel I'm thinking in a wrong way, and kind of help me further the understanding.
Sure.
The one thing that's encouraged in this show is disagreements.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel it leads to much better conversation.
Good.
So pardon me if I disagree with you, and I want you to disagree with me.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's start with a statement I heard. Economy and economic growth can be boiled down to you producing more things.
Yes.
That's it.
Well, it's 2 parts.
Okay.
Producing more things is one half of it, which is what we call supply. The other half of it is somebody has to want those things. There has to be demand for it. When both come together, you get growth. So sometimes when there's overproduction, but nobody wants it, then what happens is you have industries producing too much, they cut back. That's what is called a recession, because they stop producing because nobody's buying the stuff, right? And sometimes you have a lot of demand and not enough production. That's when you get inflation. because prices are rising. There's a lot of demand. People want more of it, but not enough is being supplied. I mean, take for example, airlines. If it's a hot tourist season, everybody wants a ticket. So the airlines are all flying full and they know they can raise their prices. That's a situation where demand is exceeding supply. You can't build new planes in a hurry. You can't bring them on board. You have only so many flights. And therefore, that's inflation.
Gotcha. Do you mind if I have this coffee?
Absolutely.
I
I'll
would
join you.
Encourage you. Cheers,
Cheers.
sir. Cheers to meeting you. This is such a big life achievement for me, honestly.
This is very interesting. Orange juice and coffee. Okay.
It's my friend Riaz Amlani's brainchild. It's called Dope Coffee. I'm just not branded at all. He's just a friend. But coffee culture in Mumbai is growing a lot.
This is a lot better though than some of those energy drinks which have 5 or 10 times the caffeine in them.
Yeah.
And those I think are positively dangerous because you may stay awake for a really long time doing damage to your health.
May I ask you what's up in life right now?
What's up in life? Well, on the one hand, I have a new book which I'm trying to promote the message. It's sort of trying to say there's a different path for India in terms of growth. Other than that, it's teaching. I have to teach a PhD course in the next quarter, which I have to, along what we said, I have to first decide what I want to teach and then do the reading, learn it myself. So there's a lot of work to be done. And then, of course, we have an election coming up in this country. And, I'm going to try and speak so that people sort of get a sense of what the big issues might be as we go into the election.
You'd be comfortable speaking about it today?
I'd be happy to speak about it, yeah.
Okay. Do you want to speak about it right now, sir?
We can talk anytime, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why don't we actually get to it a little bit later because
Sure.
I'm sure it'll enter certain political domains. And first, let's address economics.
Absolutely.
So people understand who they're listening to.
Right.
You spoke about the basics.
Yes.
What I also wish to know about is the art of economics, which I know is a thing now because of the conversations I've had in the past.
Yeah.
So there are basics you learn.
Yes.
And then eventually, and I believe this is the case with any profession, if you do it long enough, it does become a bit of an art form.
Right.
And then your personality and your own, for lack of a better word, biases come into play. Human biases come into play. Your own thought processes make their way to your work.
Right.
Now, in your world as the RBI governor,
Yeah.
so I first want you to break down this art form theory that I have. The second sub question is, as the RBI governor, how different was your work from the chief economic advisor
Right.
and or the finance ministry?
Right.
And how do now, like this is basically 3-4 different profiles.
Yes.
Everyone brings the art of economics into play and
Right.
then you'll come up with economic policy.
Right.
So how does this whole thing work?
Right. So, when you say art, implied in that is also there might be a science of economics. And there is a science which is the theory, the evidence that is built up. Sometimes administrators don't know that science. They haven't been studying economics, etc. They basically come with an administrative skill set. And then they learn on the job what has to be done. Now, fortunately, I had a long sort of tenure in economics as a professor. I was chief economist of the International Monetary Fund. And then I eventually came to India, was chief economic advisor in the finance ministry and then RBI governor. Now, so I had a body of knowledge, which is useful because in every profession, you have to know when people are pulling wool over your eyes, when they're trying to convince you of something and you know it's not true. And for me, it was always sort of debating with the bankers who'd come with some new proposal or the other to help them. And you have to know when it makes sense and when it doesn't make sense.
So it's more like it teaches you the defense rather than the offense.
It teaches you the offense also in the following sense. When you say offense, one of the things I did before I became anything connected to the government was I was asked by Dr. Manmohan Singh to write a report on the state of the financial system in India. And we wrote the report called 100 Small Steps. A lot of prominent bankers participated, Mr. Uday Kotak, for example. And that report was a blueprint of how we reform the system. And of course, what happens with many reports is it sits on a shelf. Nobody acts on it. Fortunately, when I came in as governor, the report was ready for me to start acting. And so we pulled it out and said, ye karenge, ye karenge. We went through the whole list of what we could do. And we did a fair amount in that period. So that was the sort of undercore science playing offense. Defense is, when somebody comes to you and says, this can't be done, that can't be done. And then you ask why. And then they explain. And now because you have a background, you start seeing what makes sense, what doesn't. There's a lot of practicality. That's the art that you're talking about. That is there, which people who have 20, 30 years experience in the area know. And if you ignore that, that also is problematic.
Okay, just to be clear for better understanding, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you. But when you say that you see a report and then things are actually done, this means they make their way to economic policies, like whatever you thought about in the report.
Exactly.
And when you're talking about practicality, I think what you're trying to say is when the economic policies actually become a law, it affects the nation in a certain way.
So let me give you an example of a thought which becomes a policy, which then needs to be developed. So, for example, one of the earlier sort of constraints was we didn't license banks. It was done rarely,